Hello students, welcome back to storage area network classes. So in the previous sessions we have covered till nested RAID, right? RAID concepts, RAID 0, RAID 1 and nested RAIDs were the topics we have discussed earlier. So the next is about the RAID 3. RAID 3 stripes data for performance and uses parity for fault tolerance. So here two concepts comes. It is the continuation of RAID 0, that is striping concept is there, followed by parity is used for the fault tolerance purpose. So parity information is stored on the dedicated drive so that the data can be reconstructed if a drive fails in a RAID set. Okay. Here one array is called as dedicated array that is used for the parity purpose. So a1, a2, a3, a4 are the four stripes of data a. Data a, okay, b, c, d and e are the input from the host. There is a RAID controller which does the striping as well as parity assignment. So a1, a2, a3 and a4 are the four stripes that are done by the RAID controller. They are stored at four different arrays. Similarly for B, C and P, C, D as well as E. The fifth array is called as dedicated array where the parity bit is parity value is stored. AP stands for parity value of data A, BP stands for parity value of data B and so on. This is what RAID 3 is, and RAID 4 is similar to RAID 3. Here performance is slightly improved, that is what called as RAID 4. Okay, and RAID 5, here in a RAID 5 what happens is we can randomly store the parity anywhere. If you are storing the four stripes, five disks are required, that is compulsory. But compared to RAID 3 and RAID 4, RAID 5 is quite a bit different. Here there is no dedicated array. Parity is stored randomly. You see A1, A2, A3, A4 and fifth value is parity, but next time the fourth value itself is parity. BP is there immediately after B3 in the second row. That is what the difference between RAID 3 comma 4 as well as 5. Okay, RAID 3 and RAID 4 belongs to the same category, but RAID 5 is quite different. There is no dedicated array for storing the parity. Why parity is used? Parity is used for the fault tolerance purpose, and data striping is for data protection, you know, right? In case of one disk fails, then still you will be able to recover the access, or I mean access the remaining portion of the data. That's why the concept of striping is introduced. So parity is a continuation of striping only, so size striping is must for parity. But along with that, for fault tolerance we have a concept called as parity. Okay, striping is there of course. Then we have RAID 6. So RAID 6, this implements dual parity. Please remember, this implements dual parity where data from the host A, B, C, D, E are the different data from the host which pass through the RAID controller. And dual parity is what? Two dedicated, not dedicated, like similar to the continue. It is the continuation of RAID 5. There is no dedicated array, but along with AP we have um, a replica of the same, we can say. You can consider this as the mirror image or replica of the parity, so we call it as AQ. As you can see, A1, A2, A3 are the three stripes of data A. Then we have its parity value, the AP, and its replica, I mean its dual parity, AQ. Okay, the purpose of having dual parity, in case of if the disk fails, which disk which stores the parity value itself fails, then we cannot recover the parity value, right? For that purpose dual parity concept is introduced, so we can still recover it from the another disk, say AQ. Similarly for B we have B1, B2, BP, BQ is there, B3 is there. Similarly for C, D as well as E. Please go through. So these are all the different levels of the RAID. Very very simple as well as very important concept. Sure question, you can expect sure question from RAID. Okay, uh, if you study all the configurations, RAID configuration, then 10 marks will be there in your, at least I mean minimum 10 marks will be there in your pocket. Please remember. Okay, next is about the RAID impact on disk performance. So RAID impact on disk performance. To study this, um, we have to concentrate about the write penalty also. Penalty means, let us see the terminology. So when choosing a RAID type, it is imperative to consider its impact on disk performance and application IOPS. IOPS stands for input output per second. So in both mirrored and parity RAID configurations, every write operation translates. So mirrored as well as in case of both mirrored and parity RAID configuration, every write operation translate into more input output overhead for the disk because you are performing additional task, right? In case of mirroring, you are performing additional task. Say you are placing the additional write operation, you are copying the data and writing it on separate disk, right? Similarly for parity also, each time you will be computing the parity of the individual disk followed by for that row, I mean for individual stripe you are computing, its value will be noted down or stored in the uh, dedicated parity disk. So this needs additional steps, additional write operation, right? Please try to understand. So this additional operation is called as write penalty. That's it. Very simple concept. So in case of mirroring, we need to put additional effort because copying the data at one location is not sufficient, right? We'll have to take its backup and store it on another place. That hence it is called as a penalty. In case of parity also the same thing, there will be a dedicated drive which stores the parity value, and each time data uh, parity value of each stripe to be computed and it is to be stored on that parity disk. So additional write operation you are supposed to perform, hence it is called as write penalty. Okay, in a RAID 1 implementation, every write operation must be performed in two disks configured as a mirrored pair. One write operation is not equal to two write operation in case of mirrored the RAID 1, right? Whereas in the RAID 5 implementation, a write operation may manifest as four input output operation when performing IOs to the disk configured. With RAID 5, the controller has to read, recalculate and write a parity segment for every data write operation, since it has got a parity concept. So here is a diagram which illustrates a single write operation on RAID 5 that contains group of 5 disks. 5 disks are say A, B, D, C, D and E are the 5 disks. So we are performing the operation on RAID 5. RAID 5 is the one. It is parity only, improved version of RAID 3 and 4. There is no dedicated array to store the parity value. Parity will be stored randomly. That's it. Please remember difference between RAID 5 and RAID 6. In case of RAID 5, we have single parity, whereas RAID 6 has got dual parity. So a scenario of once the data is updated, once a new write operation is done on the particular drive, then what are the things to be updated? Parity value should be recomputed, right? So new parity value is computed as old parity value, right? And where exactly the data is updated, that is to be considered. We are assuming that the data is updated at stripe E4. Please try to understand. So old parity value of stripe E4 to be accessed, that is to be subtracted from EP old, and you have to add the new parity value. Why new parity value is computed? Parity value is computed because you have done some updation, alteration on the data. On which data stripe? Which data stripe? This is the scenario where you have done the, anywhere you can take, but here we are taking it as you have done the updation of data at data stripe E4. Please try to understand, right? So here the data is slightly updated. What you are supposed to do? You have to recompute the parity value. So parity value of E4 is computed, new value is computed, old value should be subtracted. So here is the disk which holds EP, here is the disk which holds EP, EP value should be a new value, new value, what is to be done? E4, by this step it is updated, no, E1, E2 and E3 remain same since you have done some updation at disk E4. So I mean data stripe E4, new parity should be calculated at the particular location, isn't it? Right? So from the existing value of EP, first subtract the previous value of E4, now add the new value, so that will give you the new parity. That's it. Right? So EP new is computed as by accessing its previous value, subtract E4 from that and add the new parity value. Actually XOR operation is performed. Okay, they are XOR operation. For the sake of convenience here, addition and subtraction we are considering it as. So EP new will be E4, EP old minus E4 old plus E4 new, where XOR operations will be performed between them to compute the parity value. Okay. Next is about the application IOPS and RAID configurations. So when deciding the number of disk required for an application, it is important to consider the impact of RAID based on the IOPS generated by the application. The total disk load, so that is based on the IOPS, stands for input output per second. Okay. So when deciding the number of disk required for an application, we have to consider the impact of RAID based on the input output per second generated by the particular application. The total disk load should be computed by considering the type of RAID configuration and the ratio of read compared with, or I mean compared to write from the host. So here is the example. So the following example illustrates the method to compute the disk load in a different types of RAID technology. So different types of RAID in the sense different versions of RAID. Different versions we have studied, no, right from RAID 0 till RAID 6. So about them. So here is the question: consider an application that generates 5200 IOPS. Please try to understand an application which generates. It's a huge application where maybe in terms of TBs or whatever, where 5200 input output instructions will be generated per second. That is given in the question, with 60% of them being read. 60% of them being read means what is the remaining percentage for write operation? Remaining percentage is what? 40% remain, isn't it? So consider an application that generates 5200 IOPS with 60% of, try to understand the question now, 60% of 5200 input output per second. Such type of operations will be based on read. What is the percentage remaining? 40% of 5200 will be write operation. That's it. It is understood. Now you have to compute the disk load. Now you will be asked to compute the disk load in various versions of RAID. Let us see RAID 5, how to compute the disk load in RAID 5. So RAID 5 disk load is equal to, please try to understand, 0.6 stands for what? 60%, as I told you, right? This is 60% of 5200, that is 0.6. 60% is written as into 5200, that is 60 divided by 100 into 5200. In addition with, so this is very important, okay, in addition with write operation. Now read is considered, now you have to consider the write operation. So for write operation, 40%, that is 0.4, that is 40% of 5200 to be computed. That is for sure 0.4 you read it as into 5200, but along with that, so this is 40% write penalty, 40 sorry write instructions. So 60% of instructions overall IOPS belongs to read means remaining what 40% belongs to write operation. But along with write operation, you need to add the you need to multiply. Consider the multiplication factor, write penalty. Okay, you go through the description because write penalty for read 5 is 4. Write penalty for read 5 is 4. 4 additional steps you need to perform to, if whenever you are updating the data on the drive, 4 additional tasks you need to perform. That is accessing the previous parity value, right? Updating the particular block of the parity, right? Recomputation of the parity and storing the parity value. These are all the additional steps you are performing. Please try to remember the right penalty value for all the RAID levels that we'll be considering the comparison chart for RAID level um, in the next session. So let us consider. Let us try to remember the right penalty value. It is fixed. Okay, right penalty value for 5 RAID 5 will be 4. So we are considering the multiplication factor 4. So the 5000 60% of 5200 will be coming as 3120 in addition with 28080 40% multiplication by 4, that is 4 into 2080 will give you you will be getting 8320 plus 3120 11440 IOPS are generated. Okay, that is for RAID 5. The same disk load in RAID 1, that is number of, this is the disk load in RAID 5. Okay, a number of IOPS in RAID 5, number of IOPS with respect to RAID 1 can be computed, same formula, but write penalty value is different. Write penalty value for RAID 1 is 2. Please try to understand, try to remember this. It is 2 because in RAID 1 there is no concept of parity, only mirroring, right? Mirroring. So performing one write operation is equal to writing at two different locations. That's why write penalty value is 2. Right? Earlier, with respect to RAID 5, it was 4 because writing on one location, 3 additional steps. They are accessing the parity value, right? Then recomputing the parity of the particular block, storing the parity value. There are the additional steps we are performing. So total 4 operations. So 4 write penalty is considered as 4 in RAID 5. In RAID 2, sorry, in RAID 1 it is considered as 2 because here one write operation is equal to 2 write operations, right? You cannot store the data at single place. You have to store it at 2 places to implement RAID 1, that is mirroring concept. So number of IOPS will be 7280. Now total disk load can be computed as per the question. As per the question, so it is asked, it is given in the question itself. The computed disk load determines the number of disks required for the application. If in this example, read the question carefully. If in this example, disk drive with a specification of maximum 180 IOPS need to be used. Don't worry, this will be given in the question itself. Please remember. So capacity of each disk, how many IOPS a disk can handle, and that thousands or 2000 or 7000 what is computed, that many number of IOPS cannot be handled by a single disk. Absolutely. Okay, so multiple disks are required. So capacity of each disk in terms of how many number of IOPS it can handle, that will be given in the question itself. If it is given as 180 IOPS, read the statement carefully. Then total number of disk required, calculate the total number of disk load is computed now. Total number of disk required in this application. Okay, for both RAID 5 as well as for RAID 1. Let us say for RAID 5 it will be, that's it, very simple. You have computed the disk load as in RAID 1. How much? It is coming as 7440 IOPS, isn't it? 7440 divided by 180, that will give you number of disks. Okay, fractional elements and all, take the full value. So 64 disk it is coming as, you can compute. Similarly for RAID 1 it is showing 7280 IOPS, some 41 odd values it is showing. So you have to consider the even value always for mirroring, because you cannot have the odd number of disk in case of mirroring, right? If there are 5 disks available, then you have to take the replica of each disk. So 5 plus 5, total number of disks will be 10, right? So it is showing some 41 it is coming, but 41 cannot be taken, so approximate it to nearest even number. This is must. Fraction value should be obviously ignored because fractional disk and all we are not considering, we are considering the full disk only. Okay. Next is the comparison chart. You can go through here, write penalty value, everything is written. Please go through this carefully, go through the table carefully. It is there at page number 102 and 103 of the textbook. Okay, textbook, as per textbook, page number 67, 68. As per the PDF, 102 and 103. Please go through. Computation of the rate penalty value, minimum number of disk required, everything is there. Okay, we'll see that. We'll see. I'll try to take this in the form of image. Let us go through them. Okay. Yes, here is the comparison chart of different RAID levels. If you study this table, if you remember this table, you will definitely, it will be easy for you to answer for any of the questions based on RAID. Okay, this contains everything like minimum number of disk required and all. You will definitely come to know what it is and all. See, for RAID 0, how many disks to implement RAID 0? How many number of disks are required? RAID 0 is striping concept, right? Stripe means what? Division. So at least you have to divide the data into two halves. Two halves in the sense each half of each division of the data, each unit of the data out of the two divisions, each should be stored in one particular disk. So minimum number of disk required to configure or implement RAID 0 is 2, right? Storage efficiency will be 100% only because entire disk can be utilized. I mean, that for the data, particular data, entire disk can be utilized. Then cost of implementation will be low. Read performance, this is good. Write performance is set as good. Write penalty, there is no write penalty. Write penalty, one write operation equal to one write operation. Here write penalty is considered as one only. And data protection, there is no protection implemented. For RAID 1, minimum number of disks required again 2, but efficiency is 50% only. 50% because even though you have got 2 disks, but whatever the data is stored at the first disk, say disk A, should be there at disk B also. So disk B also treated as a disk A only, right? Hence, it's of no use actually. Only in case of if disk A fails, then its replica can be used. Otherwise, it's of no use. Hence, efficiency is set as 50%. Cost is high because you need to have two dedicated, and the other disk is actually it is useless only, right? In case of normal operation, we are not referring to it. In case if the first disk fails, then only we refer. But read performance is compared as better than a single disk. Then write performance slower compared to the single disk. It is said as penalty is much high. Penalty is 2 here, right? Penalty earlier it is 1 with respect to RAID 0, but RAID 1 it is 2. Okay, protection is implemented because of the concept in mirroring. Then RAID 3 is there. RAID 3, RAID 2 is not there. So we have uh, RAID configuration, that is 1 plus 0 as well as 0 plus 1, right? That is not there. So RAID 2 is not there. RAID 3 we have minimum number of disks required for RAID 3 is 3 because say striping is must. For implementation of striping you need 2, and parity is must in RAID 3. For parity, dedicated disk is required. 2 plus 1 total how much? 3 disks, right? Then storage efficiency is computed as, see, efficiency out of 3 disks only 2 disks are considerable. Third disk is only for parity, so you cannot store the data. So n minus 1 divided by n. If there are n disks, then n minus 1. If there are 3 disks, then 3 minus 1. 2 disks are used for data out of 3. 2 out of 3 into 100 in terms of percentage, right? Or in general, n minus 1 divided by n into 100 in terms of percentage we can measure the efficiency. So 2 divided by 3, 66.66%, right? That is in the particular case what we are considering, in minimum there are 3 disks are required, but maximum any number of disks you can take, right? In that case efficiency will be different. Okay, here parity protection is implemented. Write penalty is high only. Write penalty value will be 4 only here everywhere. Then for disk 4 again write penalty will be for computation of RAID 4. I mean minimum number of disk for RAID 4 is, say, RAID 4, RAID 5 configure similar to RAID 3 only. Configurations are similar. I mean in case of configuration what happens is dedicated, somewhere dedicated disk is used for parity and somewhere dedicated disk is not used, but number of disks are same, right? Hence everywhere it is efficiency same. You can go through for RAID 4 as well as RAID 5 n minus 1 by n into 100 only it is. Okay, whereas in RAID 6 it is slightly differs, because in RAID 6 minimum number of disk required are 4. Because why it is 4? Earlier it was 3 only, but now it is 4 because dual parity to be implemented. Out of 4, one is used for parity, one is used for its replica. Say dual parity 2 are done. Remaining 2, minimum number of disk required for implementing striping, right? So n minus 2 number of disk can be utilized out of n number of disk, because that 2 is used for parity. So n minus 2 divided by n into 100 is the way what we calculate the penalty. This one efficiency. Okay, and in case of that hybrid RAID, I mean 1 plus 0 as well as 0 plus 1. So minimum number of disks are 4 once again, because one implementation of RAID 1 you need 2 disk, implementation of RAID 0 you need 2 disk. Okay, so please go through this chart carefully, study this chart, remember this. Please make a note of it. So is the one of the very important topic once again from the examination point of view. So next is about the hot spares. A hot spare, you know about the spare part. Spare part is what? Of your vehicle and all. Spare part you know, right? Accessory. So a hot spare refers to a spare drive in a RAID array that temporarily replaces a failed disk drive by taking the identity of the failed disk drive. That's it. So spare parts are, you go for spare part replacement and all, right? Of the vehicle, of your vehicle, accessories and all. So in the same way, a hot spare refers to the spare drive. It is the additional drive, spare drive in the RAID array, and that temporarily replaces a failed disk. Okay, failed disk drive by taking the identity of the failed disk drive. So hot spare stands for this will not terminate the operation. Ongoing operation it will not terminate. Ongoing operation, data input output operations will be running only, but only that faulty or failed drive will be replaced with a new one. Okay. Hence it is, hence the concept is called as hot spare. Hot spare. And cold spare is something different. Cold spare, we have cold spare in the sense we terminate the operation, normal operation, we go for repair, I mean replacement or whatever, then we restart the operation. That is not the case here. In case of hot spare, ongoing session will be there active only, but only the failed disk will be replaced. Parity and all everything will be recomputed. Okay. So this ends the chapter 3 of first module. Next we have the chapter 4. Chapter 4 is about intelligent storage system. Intelligent storage system. So what exactly there inside the storage system? What are the necessary components or essential components required to implement the storage system? That is what we are going to study. So it is termed as intelligent storage system. Why it is called as intelligent storage system and all you will come to know in this chapter. So this is the part, this is also the part of the first module itself. I will complete this topic in the next session. Okay, thanks for watching. See you in my next video.